Hey everybody, what is going on? Hexlex here, got another Master Duel video for you. In today's video we're going to be going over something that was leaked recently and that I was kind of thinking about talking about around the time it got leaked, but I decided to go ahead and wait until we got an official announcement, which actually happened today. March 14th is the day I'm recording this, and that is going to be the Normal and Rare Rarity Festival. So that actually officially got announced today. Again, we already knew about it from some leaks, and I considered theory crafting some decks to maybe try and, kind of get ahead of the game, but I'm actually kind of glad I didn't, and we're about to see why, although if you're watching this video, you've probably already seen this announcement and know why, but let's go and take a look at it anyway. So, yep, Normal and Rare Rarity Festival. The more medals you get, more awesome rewards you can earn. Looks like it's going to be the 23rd through April 3rd, so we'll go into the new season a little bit. That's kind of cool. Yep, rewards cannot be claimed. That's all standard stuff. Okay, Ultra Nerve Strong, Ultra Rare and Super Rare cards are the only strong cards. Let's get into the fascinating world of Normal and Rare cards. I actually kind of agree. I think the idea of Normal and Rare only decks are really cool. So we can only use Normal and Rare decks. Medals info. There is actually a bit of an update here. Yeah, here we go. The number of medals you will earn will be the same regardless of whether you own your deck or a loaner deck. Use the deck to your liking. So what does that mean? If you remember the YUGIOH Festival, we actually got double credit for using our deck as opposed to a loaner deck, which really didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. I feel like you're just punishing people who don't go out of their way to try to play in the format at that point. But looks like Konami has kind of picked up that, that is not necessarily what the players are all about. So looks like we will be getting the same number of medals. So here's something interesting. We go down to the Forbidden Limited list. Obviously, all super and ultra rare cards are going to be banned. However, archetypes to be limited partial list. Some of the cards with the rarity of normal or rare related to the following archetypes will be semi-limited, limited, or forbidden. That's going to be True Draco, True King, Megalith, Magispector, Generator, Time Lord, Phantasmal Spiral Dragon, and Tenyi. That's a very interesting announcement, because if you look at all these deck types, those are pretty much all of the decks that people were theory crafting were going to be really, really good for this event. Particularly True King, True Draco, and Megalith, and Generators, like I know, and Tenyi. Like those especially, I was probably going to build one of those decks, but now I'm glad I didn't, and I was, going to make a video about these kinds of decks. But yeah, so we don't know to exactly what capacity these decks will be hit. I'm not saying they're going to be unplayable. They could still be very good in the event. But honestly, I think a lot of other people too are going to generally kind of avoid these archetypes because, we can kind of figure that Konami is just going to get rid of like some of the best cards from the archetypes. So will some of these archetypes be playable? Maybe. Do I expect they will be as good as some of the other decks? Again, we'll just have to see. I don't think so. So as the title of this video implies, depending on what I titled it, but I think I'm going to title it something effective like, 4 decks that are good despite the normal rare ban list. Obviously, it'll sound better than that when you actually see it. But yeah, we're actually going to be looking at decks that aren't affected by this ban list. Also, a fun thing to note down here, cards to be limited. Partial list. Again, cards that deal effect damage to the opponent, cards that can easily be used to defeat oneself, and other cards that may affect the balance of this event. So they are actually going to hit in some capacity the self-OTK decks, or the self-burn decks that people would use to grind the event quickly. So that's kind of interesting too that they're actually taking notice of that. I kind of figured they would, but let's see. So the detailed archetype restrictions will be announced on March 17th. So yep, we have a few days here, but it should be March 15th. This is being uploaded. So yep, those are going to be all the announcements there for the Normal and Rare Festival. So like I said earlier, I actually have 4 different decks that are not any of the ones listed here that will, I think, be a pretty good fit for the tournament. Now, I will full disclosure something real quick. I did not actually build, for the most part, I didn't build these decks myself. One I did kind of mess around with a little bit, because it's the main one I think I'm going to use, but most of these decks, and even the baseline for the deck that I messed around with, actually come from a Google Docs spreadsheet that I found on the Master Duel subreddit that lists about 100 different decks that are normal and rare rarity only, and it's even got little like tier lists from them, because apparently I wasn't even aware of this. Apparently there are, or have been, a whole bunch of tournaments for normal and rare only decks, so it sounds like quite a few people are already a bit ahead of the curve when it comes to this event. So yeah, a user by the name of, I don't have his name. Man, I should have grabbed that before oh man, I feel really bad now. Well, a link to that spreadsheet is going to be in the description, so go ahead and check it out down there. If you're interested in taking a look at, again, about 100 different decks that are normal and rarity only. I cherry-picked a few that I wanted to try that were also a bit higher tiered that I think are going to be quite good for this event. Again, that are not any of these archetypes mentioned here. So let's go ahead and take a look at the first of these 4 decks. Okay, so here is the first of the 4 decks I'm going to be showing you guys today. This is going to be a normal and rare only Yosenju deck, and this is actually the one that I mentioned, just earlier that I've messed around with a bit. And this is the one that I think I'm going to be using mostly for the event. I'll try out all the decks I have built here. Obviously, I've built them. I might as well play them at least once, but this is going to be the one that I am going to, I think, be grinding the most with. So, Yosenjus, I've actually played this archetype in real life when it came out. It was definitely a budget archetype in real life as well. But a very cool deck. You basically, the whole deck is kind of centered around these 3 commas, very creatively named Yosenju, 1, Yosenju, 2, and Yosenju, 3. When they are all normal summoned, they can add, or you get another normal summon for another Yosenju monster. So the idea is, ideally, you have all 3, and you can just normal summon 1, 2, 3 all in a row. Now, they are all going to bounce back to your hand when they get normal summoned. That is true not only of the commas, but of these other Yosenjus that we are playing as well. Yep, that's kind of like the recurring theme among Yosenjus, that they get bounced back to the hand if they get normal summoned. But they also have effects that tend to activate when they're normal summoned. Particularly, 1 has a pretty good effect that you can bounce an opponent's face-up card when it's normal summoned. So that's pretty cool. And that is one of the main draws of the deck. Again, like I said, I think this is going to be one of the better decks. I was surprised this wasn't going to be on, or this wasn't on the list of decks they're going to limit. This was actually gonna be the deck that I used, not even factoring in all the stuff that they got limited. I was just gonna go for Yosenjus because I'm more familiar with them. So the fact that they didn't get hit at all makes me even more amped for this deck. Let's go ahead and run through the list here card by card real quick. We've got 3 Battle Fader, 3 Construction Train Signal Red, 3 Yosenju, 1, 3 Yosenju, 2, 3 Yosenju, 3, 1 Yosenju Sujik, 3 Speedroid Menko, 3 Yosenju Izana, 1 Yosenju Magat, 3 Yosenju Oyam, 3 Radian, the multi-dimensional kaiju, 2 Ancient Warriors Loyal Guan Yun, sorry, definitely butchered that, 3 Thunder King, the Lightning Strike kaiju. Jeez, I don't know any of these card names, and there's so little I can't barely read them here. 3 Kyoto Waterfront, 2 Torrential Tribute, and 2 Yosenju Sword Sting. In the extra deck, we have 1 number 57 Tri-Head Dust Dragon, 1 number 85 Crazy Box, 3 number 70 Malevolent Sin, 1 number 76 Harmonizer Gradiel, 1 number 77 The Deadly Sins, 3 Muck of the Tenyi, 2 Geonator Transverser, 1 Triple Burst Dragon, 1 Berserker of the Tenyi, and 1 Racefulgur the Desperate Doom Eagle. So the extra deck for a lot of these decks aren't going to be particularly important. You can go into some of these effects, or some of these monsters, and it does sometimes matter, but I think for the most part, not just this deck, but most of the decks that I'll be showing here are mainly focused on what we're doing with the main deck. So again, the kind of plan with this main deck is to, normal summon a bunch of your Yosenjus, all at once. Jesus, I can't talk today. 1 bounces a monster when it's normal summoned. 2 can have its attack to attack directly. And 3 says that when a Yosenju card deals damage, you get to add a Yosenju monster from your deck to your hand. So that's pretty cool. So you can bounce a monster, attack directly, add more Yosenju stuff. Yosenju, 3 also gives you another normal summon. So if you have a 4th Yosenju in your hand, you can even normal summon that as well. That's probably going to be Izana, who can draw you an extra card. It can also be used to, as a sort of, not hand trap, but as a utility card to make it so your opponent can't respond to any of your Yosenju effects. We've got Magat to summon more Yosenjus from the deck. Oyam is actually a unique Yosenju in that it's mostly used when you're getting attacked. Like I said, the Yosenju monsters all bounce themselves back to your hand during the end of the turn when they're normal summoned. So we have a lot of kind of contingency plans to keep this in mind. We've got not only the 2 Oyams, we've got 3 Battle Fader, 3 Menko. Those can both special summon themselves when you get attacked directly, and Battle Fader outright ends the battle phase. Menko can turn all of your opponent's monsters to defense mode, which not only more or less ends the battle phase, but can also be useful for running over them later. Construction Signal Red can be summoned whenever your opponent declares an attack, period. It doesn't even have to be direct, and redirects the attack to it, and then it also can't be destroyed by battle. Also very useful, again, just in general, but especially when we don't have a hand, because when we don't have any monsters, we can just special this in defense mode. It can't be destroyed by battle, more or less protects us for the whole turn there. Another card we're playing in mind to kind of be in line with the fact that our opponent or our cards are going to get bounced is this Ancient Warriors monster. If you can special it from your hand if only your opponent controls a monster, and then if your opponent controls more monsters than you can actually blow up one of your opponent's monsters. So that's pretty cool. If your opponent controls, monsters, you can, before you even normal summon your Yosenjus, you can special this guy. Then you can kind of even potentially blow up some of your opponent's monsters before you go into your Yosenju plays. You might also notice we're playing a little kaiju engine here. We've got the Thunder King, the Raiden, and the Kyoto Waterfront. The reason we're playing this kaiju engine is because of Yosenju, 1. Basically, something kind of dirty you can do with this deck is you can special a kaiju to your opponent's field, right, and then special 1 to yours, and then you can 1 to bounce your opponent's kaiju back to your hand. Very, very dirty play, and a very, very good play at that. Okay, sorry about that. Yeah, so where was I? Yeah, I was talking about the Yosenju, 1 and Kaiju interaction. Yeah, very little dirty little combo you can do there. Like I said, you Kaiju your opponent's monster, summon your own Kaiju, and then you can summon 1, bounce your opponent's Kaiju back to your hand, gets rid of any monster, puts a powerful monster on your board, and then you can even keep going into your Yosenju normal summon chain from there. Very cool stuff. Yeah, I really, really like this deck. I think it's going to be a very good fit for this tournament. Like I said, I was planning on building this deck even regardless of all the other, like even when all that other stuff before that got announced that it was going to get, banned or limited in some way. But the fact that Yosenju's didn't get touched at all makes me even more confident in using this deck for the event there. So, yeah, that's pretty much all I've got to say, I think, about this particular deck. I'm just looking over the list real quick and making sure I didn't miss anything here. Nope, I'm pretty satisfied that I've covered just about everything. Like I said, the extra deck, I really haven't used too much. Well, I'll be honest here, I don't actually have a whole lot of testing with this particular build. I haven't tried it out yet because, obviously at the time I'm recording this, the normal rare event currently isn't running. And unlike the last event where, I had a deck in mind, Zodiac, so I was like, oh, this deck is not only solid for the event, but could also be good on ladder. If I try to take this deck to ladder, I think I'm just going to get, trounced. I don't think that's going to be very much fun to play or watch, so I think I'm going to wait until the actual event itself before I show much gameplay with these decks. I might try to get into a room or something that's normal and rare only. I'm sure there's going to be plenty of those floating around, but yeah, so that's kind of just my plan at this current time. So let's see here. Yep, I'm pretty satisfied I've covered this deck. Let's go ahead and move on to the next normal and rare only deck I want to show you guys. Okay, here is the next normal / rare only deck I've got for you, and this is another personal top choice for me because this is another deck that I've played in the past, and that's Gadgets. Oh, when these cards first came out in the US, it was in the Machine Revolt structure deck with the Ancient Gear Gadajiltron Dragon, and I was actually following the OCG even way back then, so I was waiting for Gadgets to come out because Oppression Gadgets was a deck I really wanted to try. Yes, way back in the day, I was a filthy stun player. I have actually been for most of my Yu-Gi-Oh career, to be honest, but anyway, yeah, Gadgets. I think Gadgets are looking super good for this archetype, especially because we've got access to both Silver and Gold Gadget. Of the decks that I've got listed here, this is definitely, I think, this one uses its extra deck a little bit more than the Yosenju deck. I was going to say it uses the extra deck more of all the decks I've got listed, but I've actually got one here that is pretty extra deck reliant and more combo-y, so yeah, I know Yosenju's and Gadgets here are both kind of like more stun decks, or they kind of tend to play a little bit more that way, but no, we do have a combo deck coming up as well. So, Gadgets. Let's take a look at the list here. Again, we'll go card by card, and we'll talk a little bit about the individual cards and how this all kind of meshes together. Here, we've got 3 green Gadget, 3 red Gadget, 3 yellow Gadget, 3 silver Gadget, and 3 gold Gadget, naturally. We're also playing 3 Infinitrack Anchor Drill. Obviously, you can special summon the Gadgets. We're playing 3 Forbidden Chalice as our only spells, which I didn't even realize, so I looked just now. We're also playing 3 Torrential Tribute, 3 Compulsory Evacuation Device, 3 Paleozoic Dinomischus, 3 Floodgate Trap Hole, 1 Jelly Cannon, which is a very interesting card name, okay. 3 EMR, and 3 Oasis of Dragon Souls. In the extra deck, we've got Photon Popple Operative, we've got a number 50 Black Ship of Corn, we've got number 82 Heartland Draco, number 80 Rhapsody in Berserk, Gagaga Samurai, Super Quantal Mech Beast, some other thing, 3 Heavy Armored Train Iron Wolf, we've got 2 number 70 Malevolent Sin, we've got an Aegeon, the Sea Castrum, number 97 Dragolubion, whatever, Heart Earth Dragon, and then the Chaos Heart Earth Dragon as well. So yeah, gadgets. Game plan is very simple here. Basically, the gadgets themselves continuously gain you advantage by adding more gadget monsters. The Infinitrack can special summon a gadget, which can in turn add more gadget monsters, and also sets up some of your rank 4 plays. And then from there, you pretty much just have good stuff in your deck. I mean, like Forbidden Chalice, Torrential, Compulse, Dinomischus. We're just playing like all of the good, normal, and rare kind of like quote-unquote staple cards here, right? And then, yeah, occasionally we go into a rank 4. Most often, I have the Armored Train Iron Wolf because it can attack directly, and when it's destroyed, you can add a gadget from your deck to your hand. But we can also, there's situations where you might need to, change defense monsters to attack mode, or, attack directly with Heartland Draco instead, or, use Black Ship to answer a monster. Like, we have a lot of different options here in the extra deck, and unlike Yosenju's, in this build, we are going a little bit more into our extra deck. So, I mean, the deck itself is pretty simple, and like I said, you just kind of like add advantage by adding gadgets, and then use these other cards to kind of trade for your opponent's stuff. I would be interested in testing the Book of Moons in here, because I think that could be very, very good in this deck. I think it might be better than EMR, I'm not sure yet, because Book of Moon not only provides an out, but it also is very good disruption, right? By changing our opponent's monster defense position, we can not only potentially more easily run over it, but we also have the potential to disrupt their plays by preventing them from going into like some synchro or Xyz or link plays by turning their monster face down. So that is a possible change I'm kind of thinking about making in this build, but like I said, I haven't really tested these builds out, so I want to play with them before I actually make changes to them, right? And I think this build also just looks solid. EMR, I think, is a fine card in this deck. It's really often only going to destroy one card, but that's usually fine. That's kind of, again, why I think Book of Moon might be a bit better. But, yeah, I think for the most part, it's looking like a very solid list. Like I said, this is kind of like my number 2 choice because, again, like I said, I have definitely played with gadgets a fair bit back in the good old days there. So we still got 2 more decks to take a look at. Let's go ahead and take a look at deck number 3 here. Okay, the third deck that we have got from the normal and rare only list there is going to be a good old Dragon Maids. Yeah, there actually is a Dragon Maid variant you can build with only normals and rares, mostly because good old Dragon Maid Tiding is a rare card. So that kind of like is the whole reason I think Dragon Maid is probably viable in this format. Dragon Maids, I do have to admit, I have like literally actual 0 experience with. This is probably the first time in the deck first time in the channel I've covered a deck where I've actually don't have any real experience with it personally, but I've obviously played against Dragon Maids a fair bit. I generally know how the deck functions. I'm obviously aware that Tiding is a very good card, and yeah, I mean, even though I haven't actually played the deck myself, I get the general gist of how it works. So let's go ahead and take a look at this list. We've got 3 Nurse Dragon Maid, 3 Laundry Dragon Maid, 3 Sangan, 3 Parlor Dragon Maid, 3 Dragon Maid Airness, 1 Dragon Maid Nudural, 1 Dragon Maid Tinkek. I mean, I get all of their, other names scrambled, but whatever. 1 Dragon Maid Lorpar, We've got a Dragon Maid changeover, and I'm actually going to explain this one real quick. So, even though we're not actually playing any Dragon Maid fusions, because, you know, they're ultra rares, what this card is used for is to discard for other effects, and then you can return it from your hand by bouncing another Dragon Maid monster, which not only gives you a recurring resource to reuse, but can also allow you to reuse the summon effects of your Dragon Maid monsters. So, you might be a bit confused, why would you play changeover if you're not playing any of the Dragon Maid fusions? That's why it's in this deck. Continuing on with the list, we have 3 Dragon Maid Welcome, 3 Book of Moon, 2 Forbidden Chalice, 1 Dragon Maid Send-Off, 3 Phoenix Wing Wind Blast, 1 Paleozoic Dynamiscus, sorry, 3 of those, not 1, 3 Dragon Maid Hiding, and 3 Dragon Maid Downtime. Down here in the extra deck, we've got 1 Imduk the World Chalice Dragon, 1 Clara and Rushka, the Ventrilla Duo, geez, say that 5 times fast, 1 Guard Dragon Pisty, 1 Proxy Dragon, 1 Code Talker, 1 Double Bite Dragon, 1 Pentasag, 1 Track Black, 1 Proglio, 1 Geonator Transverser. I don't know why Geonator, that always trips me up. 1 Triple Burst Dragon, 1 Power Code Talker, 1 Detonate Deleter, 1 Steel Star Regulator, and 1 Agave Dragon. So yeah, this list, like I said, I already explained the use of the Dragon Maid changeover there. It confused me for a second when I first saw it, but then I, read the ladder effect. I saw we've got, the Wind Blast and the Paleozoic Dynamiscus, and it's like, oh, okay, so, yeah, we can also send the big dragons that are in our hand to the graveyard with these discard effects in order to make, some use out of them so they don't just sit dead in our hand. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, as you can see, the game plan is pretty, self-explanatory. We've got all the Dragon Maids that bring out the big dragons. You're basically just being down with the big dragons, and then on our opponent's turn, we're just disrupting with like Book of Moon, Chalice, Wind Blast, the Dynamiscus, of course, that's hiding as well. It's kind of a recurring theme I've noticed with a lot of these normal and rare decks, obviously with the format being relatively limited by only being able to construct these cards or being only being able to use these cards. We do tend to be a little bit more limited in what kind of game plans we can do, and this kind of seems to be the recurring trend of normal and rare decks, right? The idea of put out a threat, set some disruption, disrupt your opponent's threats, win with your threat. I think that's going to be a common trend for, again, a lot of these decks, and I think in a way that's kind of cool. Like, this is definitely a format for, like, the Yu-Gi boomers, of which I am, I am from a time where turn 1 T-set, that's turn 1 set a monster, and 1 spell or trap, and then pass your opponent was, like, not only a viable opening play, but a solid one. So, especially if it was, like, Gravekeeper Spy and, like, Widespread Ruin. Oh, now I'm definitely dating myself, but, yeah. We've also got, the Sangans to search Little Dragon Maids. The smaller Dragon Maids are going to be fairly important in this build, especially Parlor Dragon Maid is going to be one of your main ways to set up the big dragons. And we definitely need those, obviously, to be set up before we can really start establishing our threats, like I mentioned earlier. This format seems to be mostly about establish a threat and then some disruption for your opponent's threats. I mean, to an extent, that's what Yu-Gi-Oh! In general is all about, but it's a little bit more simplified in this format. So, what about things that are not simplified in this format? Well, let's take a look at our 4th and final deck if you want something in this format that is not simple. Okay, so here is our 4th and final deck from the normal and rare spreadsheet that we're going to be taking a look at. Again, if you do want to look at more decks in that spreadsheet, there's about 100 of them, and I'll go ahead and link it in the description down below. But yeah, our DDD is going to be our last deck here. I've always been a huge fan of DDD, because I really like the character in Arc V, Reggie, that actually played the deck, and I think it's really cool that this archetype can do, like, all of the summoning types. I just think that's really neat, and I really like the just combo-y play method that DDD tends to utilize. Now, as much as I like DDD, I have very little experience actually playing them. I've played it a few times, like, a few years ago. Obviously, they didn't even have all of their support that they currently have right now during that time, and I think the deck has somewhat evolved as a result. I haven't really kept up as well as I've wanted to with this particular deck, but I will try it out at least a little bit for the normal and rare tournament because, like I said, I'm a huge fan of the deck, and it's what it can do, and obviously the anime character that used it. Anyway, let's go ahead and take a look at this list, card by card as always, and then I'll talk a little bit about this list, but I am definitely the least well-versed probably in this deck out of all of them. So I don't know if I can explain really any of the combos to you offhand. However, once the event comes around, I get some playtesting in with it, we'll definitely go into more detailed coverage, not only for this deck, but for all of the decks that I've been showing off here. So, yeah, let's go and take a look at the list here. We've got 3 DD Savant Kepler, 2 DD Necro Slime, 3 DD Lamia, 2 DD Ghost, 3 DD Night Howl, 1 DD Lilith, 1 DD Cerberus, 3 DD Baphomet, 3 DD Savant Copernicus, 2 DD Orthos, 1 DD Proud Ogre, 1 DD Savant Nicola, 1 DDD Supreme King Kaiser, 3 Radiant, the Multidimensional Kaiju, kind of another recurring trend among these decks is this Kaiju here, 1 DD Savant Newton, 2 DD Savant Thomas, 1 DD Savant Galilei, 3 Dark Contract with the Swamp King, 1 Dark Contract with the Yami Makai, right? Yeah, Yami Makai. 1 DD Human Resources, and 3 Dark Contract with the Witch. In the extra deck, we've got 3 DDD Oracle King D'Arc, 1 DD Super Doom King Purple Armageddon, 1 DD Gust King Alexander, 1 Supreme King Dragon Clear Wing, 1 DD Super Doom King Bright Armageddon, 2 DDD Stone King Darius, 1 number 70 Malevolent Sin, 1 DDD Wave King High Caesar, 1 number 84 Pain Gainer, 1 number 77 The Seven Sins, 1 DDD, Jesus, this is saying that 5 times fast, like good lord, DDD Super Doom King Dark Armageddon, and then finally 1 Baba Barber. So yeah, like I said, unfortunately I am not super well versed in this deck in particular. I guess I do have a little, like very, very slightly more experience with it than some of the other decks, but yeah, the DD deck I played, honestly it wasn't even a very competitive one. It was in Legacy of the Duelist, so it was more of just like an anime style deck, but I still had a lot of fun with it. And I intend to have a lot of fun with this list as well. From what I gather, I think the main thing you're doing is turboing out DD Oracle King D'Arc is going to be kind of like your default main play with the Dark Contract of the Swamp King. We can also fusion summon it with DD Necro Slime. I really, really like DD Necro Slime for its ability to like summon a fusion DD monster basically for free out of the graveyard. I think this card is really, really cool. One of the main reasons I like DDs. I also like DD Lamia a lot. I don't know, I like DDs as a whole. Like I said, I like how they play and I like the character that uses them, so it's a win-win-win for me, this archetype. Yep, so that's about, unfortunately, all I've got to say about this particular deck here. And that is going to just about do it for this video. Yeah, so, yeah, like I said, I am very much looking forward to this normal and rare only event. I'm very interested to see what other people are going to bring, especially with the limitations. I'm going to be keeping my eyes open as we lead into the event over this upcoming week. If I see any other cool decks that I might want to try out, I'll go ahead and make a video detailing some of those decks as well. It might be a deck profile before the actual event. It might be just playing the deck when the event comes. Not sure off the top of my head, but I do plan to try all 4 of these decks that I have talked about here. And as always, of course, the games that I get, I will be uploading here to the channel. So be on the lookout for that during the last week of March there when the event will be taking place. So, yep, that is going to just about do it, I think, for this video. Guys, thank you, as always, for watching. I super duper appreciate it, especially when you're watching all the way to the end like this. That really does mean a lot to me. It especially means a lot to me as well if you are commenting and subscribing, but don't feel like you have to. As long as you're watching, that is A-okay with me. Without further ado, though, this is XLex, signing out. I hope you have a fantastic day.